for our platform is Ed Woodham, who I've asked to bring along here. He is an independent elder Southern queer conceptual social absurdist artist. Tongue twister, it keeps going. You wait. He is also a curator. He is a producer. He is an educator. He is entangled in the melange of New York City activism and activities across media and culture. And he's been doing that for over 45 years. Ed employs humor. He employs irony. You never know how he's going to answer the phone. Be ready for a little parody. He has subtle little bits of detours and journeys he will take us on. He absolutely has a striking visual style, as we'll be able to see as he steps up here, right? He likes to provoke deeper critical engagement with people's environment and encourage people for that. So without further ado, I am going to bring Ed up here. Lending you the stage, good sir. No. So I'm going to lend him the stage. We have slides queued up. It is all yours.
All right. Thanks, everyone. It's such an honor to be here. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Great. Louder? Okay. How about now? Yeah. Good. It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, musicians were amazing, are amazing, and I'll start to talk about Art Not Places. Art Not Places, also known as AIOP, has brought works of over 1,000 artist projects to 14th Street and beyond. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, there we go. To hundreds of thousands of New York City natives and visitors with no budget to a shoestring budget. And next slide. AIOP is an ongoing social sculptural environment experiment created annually in New York City in October by a fresh collective of artists, curators, administrators, volunteers, and audience since 2005. And next slide. AIOP was founded to challenge the rules regulating our civic gathering areas and to acknowledge the importance of public space as an essential thread in the fabric of our democracy. Public space is supposed to be our space. Historically, it's where we gather to discuss and fuel change, regardless of our social, economic status, our gender, identity, age, culture, religion, or beliefs. Next slide. AIOP produces a wide range of theatrical events, social interventions, performances, installations that aim to truly be accessible to the general public. Next slide. With a deep understanding of the importance of the relationship to the site's residents, the history of the site, and the current needs and issues of the people who live in that site. Next slide. AIOP democratizes the art experience by taking it to the streets and engaging audiences that may not normally get to see art. All of the art and programming of the events are always free and open to the general public. Next slide. One of my recent personal public works is called The Keepers. The keepers are protectors who appear when life is out of balance with nature. The keepers appear in natural environments that are threatened by human disregard of the existing ecosystem. And here We are in the Gowanus Canal neighborhood, right near here, which is where I lived in Gowanus neighborhood for about 40 years. Next slide. They also appear here at mega development sites, and this is the Penn Station neighborhood last year. Next slide. In response to the gentrification and rapid mass development of urban areas where the importance of mixed-use neighborhoods, history of the area, and the natural environment has been ignored. The next slide is a video. And in this video, the compilation is an overview of 18 years of Art in Odd Places projects from 2005 to 2023, featuring images from 50 New York City projects, as well as images when I traveled to St. Petersburg, Russia, Sydney, Australia, Greensboro, North Carolina, Orlando, Florida, and Los Angeles, California. So we can play the video. next slide. Art Now Place's 2024 focus was care, an invitation to see through the eyes and heart and mind of another. Care was an act of hope, an imagination that art can help us dream new ways and new worlds into being. Care was a call to imagine together how we can bring care to one another in our fraught and fragile world. The next slide. The incentive of my life's work has been to take art out of the quarantine of institutions, museums, academia, galleries, theaters, televisions, fairs, cinemas, internets, auction houses, private spaces, into the accessibility of the genuinely democratic public realm. I champion taking art off of the pedestals and the shelves and the walls into the welcoming extraordinary of our day-to-day lives. Art offers a portal for change. It is the hidden superpower of our singular and shared strengths. And accordingly, I encourage myself and each of us to reclaim our talent, our latent, remarkable ingenuity during this precarious time. Art is a life force. And next slide. So today, and we can hit the lights now, today I've brought supplies to create individual works of wearable art as a form of public expression and collective making. Please join me here at the tables. We'll be passing out supplies. And for those of you at home, please find some twine and string, yarn, cardboard, lids from bottles, whatever you think you could use to make a necklace or an ornament to wear or place outside. Also, if you have questions for me about Art Now Places or about anything, as we're making, that would be a great time to, I kind of call this in a way from growing up with my grandmother and a group of women, called it Stitch and Bitch, where we just sit around and make and talk and visit collectively. So I'll do a demonstration now at the table, and we'll start passing out supplies. And you're going to be making either a necklace or an ornament, and I'll show you some examples.
Ed, should we bring a mic around for you, or can we?
I'm not sure if it, is there,
We have one on a stand.
I suggest just sort of tell them.
A list of supplies to take out for any kind of. Careful, we don't want to take the guitar. Thank you, Fred.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Cool. Okay, you have a choice of plastic disc or a cardboard, or a heart. And I'm going to show you, here is an example here. And these are pieces of art that will make, that you can, if you're wearing it outside, and so you become public art, or you can leave it outside, or you can just make a simple ornament like this. Here's another example. And a couple ways you can do it. You don't need a fork. You can trace it on the back here. And I'll do that. Trace it. And a couple of different ways you can do it before you start. You can just trace it, then you can cut that out, or you can peel. This is a sticker. You can peel off the sticker. This might be easier for some people. This is help. Some people will have more difficulty peeling than others, so help each other out as a community. And peel it off. And think about lights and darks. Dark colors, light colors on top of dark colors, and vice versa. I put that onto my circle with the sticker, and then I cut that out. And then you can just freeform layer, and then you'll have a ring here to attach it, and we're going to be passing out chain if you want it, or you can just let it be an ornament. And it's pretty free form with the materials that are around. Do it as you wish. There's pencils, sure. Any questions about this or about Art Not Places? I'm here, I'm happy to help. And for those of you at home, if you have any questions, please let us know. And just use the materials that you have at home to make an ornament or a piece of wearable personal public art. Enjoy.
How old is Art Not Places? When did it start?
It started, Art Not Places started,
And can you repeat the question back, because the folks online aren't going to be able to hear the question.
that's so
that you shouted
smart.
out. Thank you.
What was the question again?
How did Art in Odd Places begin? Like what year?
It began as part of, the question was, when did Art Not Places begin and what year? And Art Not Places began in 1996 as part of the 1996 Olympics, as part of the Cultural Olympiad. And I had a huge budget and as part of the Cultural Olympiad. And it began sort of as a group of independent artists in Atlanta, Georgia. And we sort of rose up, and I led the way to create, we wanted representation as part of the Cultural Olympiad. And then it reemerged. I mean, I did it for, I think, 2-3 years in Atlanta. Then I moved back to New York after being away for many years, for about 8 years. And I reimagined it without a budget as a response to 9/11. As an individual artist, the disappearance of civil liberties and the surveillance of public space. I did. And it's really not an organization. I call it a project because it's not a nonprofit. I have a fiscal sponsor, but it's an artist project. And it's a different curators or different curatorial team every year. And it's really, I facilitate their vision. Well, that's a great, the question, and I'm not repeating questions, sorry. The question is, how can I be a part of Art Not Places if I'm not on your radar? I'd say first sign up for the mailing list on the website. And I mean, this year there were 75 artist projects, but there were hundreds of people involved. One of the artists is here today, Nima. And Nima worked with, I mean, a group of probably 10 people. So some projects have 10 people, some projects have 20 people. So we're always looking, all the artist projects need help. So we'd love to sign up and we'll be in touch about volunteering. Or, and I'm always surprised people don't do this more often, is even though you're not maybe, I mean, you can apply to the festival with an idea, And even though you may not get in, I'm always surprised that people, just because it's not sanctioned, doesn't mean that you can't make public art. Just do it. Oh, yeah, you put it on there, like this. Just, that's the hard part. And then you can just create layers, light and dark, symbols, words. There's lots of things to use. And, oh, thank you for doing that, Angel.
I really love the explanation of the keepers. Can you tell us more about keepers?
The question was, was not, that wasn't the question, but I really like the keepers. Could you tell us more about the keepers?
Like, when can I see them next?
Well, sometime next year, they appear when there is issues with the environment and neighborhoods that are being exploited by mass gross development. So everywhere. Everywhere, every day, all around the world. I guess sign up for the mailing list and you'll see them. Usually those projects are it's a personal project, so it's a grant-oriented project. And so I'm waiting to hear from New York
Oh, yes. Are they
State Council.
statues, or are there people, are people in bodies?
Oh,
It looks as if they're real, like there are bodies. So what are the materials of the keepers?
Well, the materials of the keepers are appropriated ghillie suits. Ghillie suits are suits that are used for military tactical operations or for hunters. And so they're just appropriated for as this family, usually a family. I usually work with dancers. I've been doing it for about 15 years now. I work with the same dancers, and it's an exercise in stillness, of standing completely still for durational times, for hours at
So
a time.
it is a multi-disciplinary piece.
Absolutely.
There's movement, art, the creation of the.
Yeah, there's very subtle, slight movements. It's an ensemble of people who work together.
You work with, are there any other organizations outside of New York that you are in collaboration with?
Right now, I've done it around the world.
So
Oh.
the question can be heard.
Ask me.
Other organizations.
Organizations outside of New York that you're in collaboration with?
Are there organizations that you're in collaboration with to create an art in places is the question. And the answer is, I've worked with the city of Orlando. I've worked with the city of Indianapolis. I've worked with the city of Sydney, Australia, St. Petersburg, Russia. And I'm currently working with the city of West Hollywood to celebrate their 40th year anniversary. I've worked in Greensboro, North Carolina, in London.
Are there other organizations?
Well, just the cities, but not really any organizations. Oh, love that. Now you think of another question.
Anybody else?
Do we have any questions online?
Do the musicians want to make some art?
Pat, do we have any questions from the folks online for Ed?
No, let's just say, you don't have to answer that question.
No, there's no questions that I see right now, but if you are on Zoom, you are welcome to unmute and or raise your hand and put a question to our speaker.
Are there other organizations in New York doing this kind of same work? Ed, sorry, I got the mic now. Are there other organizations in the city doing this same kind of work?
I have partnerships with, there really aren't, I mean, this is an independent artist. I mean, there are there's creative time, there's art production, but they are highly funded, and it's not, this is really without, I would say almost all of my work for many years has been done outside of institutions, and have been invited to be a part of institutions, but when people invite you, often with, even if they have money, they want control. And so I like to give the artist as much freedom as possible without any censorship. So, and that's very important to do to our work. So if someone wants control, even with money, it just doesn't work. But outside of the city, it becomes a different, the pure part of Art Now Places is on 14th Street. When I do it in other cities, it becomes more about placemaking than less about activism. Because it's, they control where the art goes, really, or what the site location is, and it has to be approved. So it's more of about placemaking and engaging the community for those spaces. But Franklin Furnace is a huge, which is a longtime funding organization for performance art. There's a brotherhood, sisterhood there.
Excuse me, Ed.
Yes.
I used to be a part of free theater and street theater. We perform on the streets, and I was wondering, we had to get permits. Do you have to get permits to?
That's a great question. I mean, and that's part of Art in That Places is we've never gotten permits, ever. Ever, and we never will. So we do everything without permits, and we know what all the laws and the rules are, and we nudge up as close as we can without breaking them all the way. We bend them. And we've had to sue the New York City Parks Department to do works before in the parks. And we won.
So Ed, I know that you teach a class because I have taken it on conceptual art. Do you want to talk about that and sort of shamelessly plug what you do for classes that people can actually sign up for and like get all kinds of inspiration and directives?
Shameless, me? I teach at School of Visual Arts, a class either in conceptual art or conceptual performance art. And really all it really is for artists, non-artists, anyone can take it, and they do take it. It's really more about just challenging your own habitual sort of patterns and to sort of rupture a way of thinking or just boredom or just repetitive states of being. And so it's just about just shaking things up a bit. And see me after the talk or our time together, and I'll be happy to give you it's my name, edwoodham@gmail.com. And if you get in touch with me, I'll sign you right up. And the class is always extremely inexpensive because I wanted to make it available to as many people as possible. So I keep it at the lowest price point allowable by School of Visual Arts. I can tell you it's like 6 weeks for $150.
We have a question on Zoom for Ed. Sarah S., you're welcome to unmute.
Hi, Ed. I no longer live in New York City. Very sad. But I actually for a for a grad school project at NYU for my MFA, I actually designed a program called Drawing in the Margins, which I think sounds very similar to art in odd places. So I was very excited to have you here today. And I'm wondering if your class has any online or Zoom component, if you have upgraded to that yet.
Yeah, in fact, Angel took the class online, so I offer it in person and online.
Ooh, wonderful.
School of Visual Arts is where I usually teach. I teach, it's a lot of different locations, but it's in the city in the 20s mostly, and I teach at East 21st Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue, but I also take classes, and my class that I had on Saturday, silk screening for the street, I go to West 21st and take it between 6 and 7. So it's around the 20s on the east and west side. Thank you, Sarah.
Ed, would you mind if I take the spotlight off of you for a moment and put Nima in it?
Oh, please.
So Nima is one of the artists that presented at the last Art in Odd Places Festival for CARE. And I'm wondering, Nima, if you would just very briefly tell us what you did.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I'm so glad that I had the chance to. I'm so glad that I had the chance to be here and be among very nice, beautiful faces, diversity, and, you know, everything that we are feeling to be written at this time. For the AIOP this year, I proposed a work that I actually did, but at the time that I proposed, I asked to be able to place a gun cabinet on the sidewalk and lock myself in. So basically, I had a van. I carried the gun cabinet, which I bought from Pennsylvania. I found it online, and I had it in the back of a van. I parked at the spot that beforehand I looked at, and actually Ed advised me about this, you know, how to position, how to think about the place. So I drove down from Massachusetts, and I undressed myself. I locked myself in the cabinet in the van, and had four very dedicated, nice, helpful team. The two of them actually are here, Angel and Carrie. So 4 of them basically brought me out, and the cabinet, carried the cabinet and placed it on the sidewalk. And I was in the cabinet locked, naked for an hour. The experience was very different for myself, as I could just hear people, because I was facing inside. And I think the moment that I came across the open call, I thought, oh, that's it. That's the only possibility I can bring this idea to life in the platform of Art in Odd Places, as the project was actually in odd place in itself, and the openness of the festival that I believe is the unique opportunity for everyone, whether the artist or the audience, to have, and I'm happy that I could do it. Thank you, Ed, again.
Thank you. And also, could you tell us maybe about what the work symbolized?
Yeah. So I'm an Iranian, and I moved to the U.S. in 2014. And when I grew up, the war between Iran and Iraq actually happened. And that war is the second longest war in the world after Vietnam. Now in my 30s, I'm in the US, and now I'm trying to, which is for 10 years ago, I'm trying to learn about different culture over the seas, totally far from my background, and I'm learning about different type of violence that actually happens towards people with the authority of gun, with the violence, with the idea of, which I call it, a man is the gun. Yeah, because what, I mean, for me, again, when I'm looking throughout the history, unfortunately, I think I couldn't convince myself and opposite, that we have been harmed through men. And for me, it brings about everything possible that we can come up with, even against feminism, even against freedom of being, for me, that I can put it, if I can put it that way. Against freedom of speech, against freedom of religious, many other personal and social identities that actually Ed mentioned through his presentation. So I think just being contained in the container that I could not believe that a person use it as a piece of furniture, somewhere in the house, and hold a gun, which has nothing to do unless violence in any kind. Even if you go out and you have fun and you shoot and kill animals, or if you go out and put your gun towards people and just bring about throughout your anger towards people, in many other cases that we have heard.
Thank you. I'm really curious. I know that must have felt very vulnerable. When people were passing by, they were saying things. Do you happen to remember some of the things people were saying as they visualized you there in the?
Yes, many. Please let me mention quickly that I participated in Art in Odd Places in 2021 as well. And that was kind of similar project that I locked myself in the cage with the same structure as the children were in the cage and are still in the cage, with a cube mirror on my head. So both cases, I have actually stories that would respond to your question. One of them that struck me deeply, that people, as soon as people would learn that I am not a statue or an animation or anything but real, they were scared. They didn't want to see a real body breathing in that situation. It's critical to me because when I think art actually is the best tool to emphasize and aggrandizement this issues that we see this. We see what they did every day, different places. Um, the U.S. is a huge country, and if we just sit down and just want to point out the problems, the violences, the issues that we encounter, endless. But why, when we come across with someone in that situation, is scary, and we are not scared of the reality of real violence that is happening next to us. Maybe my next door neighbor, maybe my daughter classmate, you know, everywhere. And or the other the other experience that I had through the project was, I think, as soon as people would learn that this is a real situation, mostly they try to walk away rather than getting involved with that situation. And this is what I'm trying to talk about through my work, that maybe sometimes we need to reconsider our responsibility, our position and our power, actually, to do something, to step forward, and maybe not just thinking about safety at the first moment, maybe thinking about beyond safety, in a way that if I can bring safety for you, I'm bringing that for myself as well. If I can bring peace for you, and I am in peace as well. So I think the dual conversation in that sense, I think, is what I'm looking for.
People must have been concerned about your safety.
Yes, of course. I think I could feel that. I had a woman who I actually have documentation of that moment, that the woman kept talking to me from the back of the cabinet, and giving me energy that I'm doing this. And she acknowledged the moment, she acknowledged the impact of the energy of the conversation that is happening, even through mind, not verbally, not through words, but this communication is happening. And I think maybe that was one example from many that they could, think about all what has have been said, and take it with themselves, and it may do something later.
Before we have a question, just real quick, I'm going to pass this around just so you can see how it's attached, and we'll start here. Just move that around. You don't have to do it this way. You can attach a ring and just use it as an ornament. And back to the question.
I wanted to ask how you define yourself as an artist. Hello? Oh, there it goes. How do you define yourself as an artist? Is it multidisciplinary, or what is the definition of performance art? And why choose to perform your art in odd places rather than in a museum or on a stage, I guess, quote unquote, a more traditional place?
Well, let's see. I can't quite remember how Angel introduced me as a. It was a tongue twister. But I mean, I guess a social sculptor, where I make things happen in social space. Like right now, I mean, we're getting craftsy, you know, and we're going to take it out into the public, and you can choose to. And the other, it was how do I just find myself?
Odd places, why not in, you know, a traditional museum or in a stage or a theater?
Actually, you should use the mic. Where's the mic? Okay. Well, the question was, why in an odd place? Why not in a museum or in a more traditional space? And those spaces are well represented. And so to walk into a museum, to walk into a Broadway theater, to walk into any theater or to a gallery, I find those places to be, I appreciate them. And it's not like I want to do away with them, but I've realized from working in the theater for many years that the audience that came to the theater was very limited. So as an artist, my exchange and the relationship that I had as an artist was limited by the people who came and sat in those chairs. And you have to be, there's a certain level of comfort that people have to have, whether it's education or their own personal comfort, or those spaces can be elitist and can be privileged. And so, and really, I wanted more knowledge that was more democratic than just the people who could afford to or felt comfortable going inside a space. So my viewpoint is, if you have to push a door to go inside, even metaphorically, it's not public space. And public space offers me as an artist much more of a wider breadth of exchange from a more diverse audience. And so, and it's free.
I wanted to, hello, somebody? All right, I wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, when I first came to New York some 50-odd years ago, people who were providing art got shot, okay? And they did not have access to public places. You know, that was a quick way to either to go to jail or, like I said, get shot. And this has been an evolution of public tolerance. You know, I wanted to mention Keith Haring. I wanted to mention the AIDS movement that put flat out acting up and putting things in the public domain without apology. And there were a number of other places. If some of you who are older than many of you here would look on the murals that are fast fading on walls, you will see rest in peace. And those are not always gang related, rest in peace, but it does mean a confrontation. And I thank you so much for bringing this, but I wanted to make sure that you understand, or the people understood, that this was an evolution of public acceptance that has been long in coming.
And I began my practice during that time. I knew Keith Haring. I was a part of that early graffiti movement and doing performance in public space at that time in the early 80s and late 70s.
Can I just say one more thing? That is an interesting question. Interesting question. Why take performance art and put it in public places and out of the institutions? And that's because the institutions have filters. And they're not necessarily interested in your message. You know, they don't want to hear confrontation. They don't want to hear problems. You know, they want people to come and donate and smile and leave without a thought of, you know, well, where did this come from? Or how is this affecting other people? I know that many of you don't know, but I have a long history in almost every struggle for the last 50 some odd years. And one of the things that we used to do in the movement, and this is the civil rights movement, we used to do plays in the street because that was the only way to bring in front of people what in fact was going on. They could not buy a newspaper, they could not turn on the TV set, but they could not ignore, you know, a 3-minute play going on in the street that brought certain things to light. And we may have to go back to that, actually.
That you're telling the truth. That's what the New York Street Theater and Free Theater was about. In '71, when I was graduating from high school, that's what they did. They came and they trained us in theater, and we would bring the microphones and we'd sing very confrontational songs, and people would have to listen. And yeah, had to get the message out.
Thank you.
Does anybody have one last question for Ed before we? I will not stop art making. Art making is meant to keep going. There is never enough time to do art. So when it comes time that you are ready to wrap up and head out, you're welcome to like pocket a few little things to keep going if you need to. It's all about finding a comfortable place to pause on your art. You guys are welcome to keep making, keep making, keep making. But does anybody have a last question for Ed before we pop into our last song and our announcements and all that great stuff?
Are there any pieces that you can think back to over your entire career that still stand out as having been profound or extraordinarily important in the way that they impacted the people who encountered them?
Oh my. There's so many, I mean, there's been thousands of projects over the years, and it's so hard to pick even a few. I mean, that's a, I'm thrown by the question, and I'll have to think just I mean, nothing, off the top of my head, it's it's so hard. Because there's so many, and the ones that, let me just think 1 or 2 minutes. I guess the ones that I can think of are the ones that I featured in the video. But there's so many more than those as well. And most of the projects usually are about social justice issues, but done in a way that is inventive, rarely forcefully confrontational. It's an invitation to observe. And some things can be completely outrageous visually, and in New York being New York, people just walk right by it and don't even notice it. That's always interesting to me. I mean, I've been observing patterns of presenting, communicating in public space, because it's rarely, it's the space that we are able to have a diverse, inclusive exchanges that may come across people we may not come across in any other location. And so I didn't answer your question, but okay.